Chapter 71, Not One But Two. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liam was a blur of motion, and the crimson blade in his hand let out a high-pitched screech before shattering. Instantly, 100 swords materialized and pierced the snakes from head to tail. 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000 and one-hit kills. All 8 snakes collapsed, lifeless, onto the rocks. Liam, too, was out cold among them. An eerie silence settled inside the volcano, broken only by faint cracking sounds a few minutes later. The intense heat only kept Liam unconscious for about a minute. Plus, something wet was dripping on his face. He frowned, stirring awake, feeling the sticky liquid all over his face and neck. Clarity returned, and he bolted upright. Crap. The egg. Liam's eyes widened as he looked around, ready for danger, when he unexpectedly came face to face with something else entirely. A tiny creature stood on his lap, gazing up at him with huge, innocent eyes. It purred and, before he could react, pounced on him, licking his face like a puppy. What the? Liam was stunned. He grabbed the baby beast by the scruff of its neck and examined it. It was a ruby-red fox spirit beast. He stared at the creature for a moment, then chuckled as everything clicked. So, you're the spirit beast, huh? Unexpectedly, a soft voice answered, Papa. Whoa. Liam was amazed. He'd never had a companion beast before. He knew that a companion beast and its master shared a mental connection, but this was his first time experiencing it. Wait, are you already bound to me, or do I still need to tame you? Liam knew that pets hatched from eggs automatically belonged to the owner, but he wanted to be sure. He quickly pulled up his status screen and was immediately bombarded with notifications. Ding. 300 experience points awarded. Ding. 300 experience points awarded. That's gotta be from the lava mambas. He swiped them away and checked the next notifications. Ding. New skill, Spirit Wrath, created due to your actions. Spirit Wrath, consumes 50% soul strength, summons 1,000,000 swords from the earth, each dealing 1000% damage to the target of your wrath. Cooldown, none. Ding. Soul strength too weak. Skill locked. Liam smiled wearily at the familiar skill. It was the second, and most powerful, attack he'd mastered in his past life. He hadn't been lucky enough to stumble upon any of the famous sword heritages or swords will like other players. After breaking free from his life of slavery, Spirit Slash, and Spirit Wrath, were all he could manage. Maybe if he'd understood more about the way of the sword, he could have learned even stronger attacks, but he never got the chance. This time, however, things would be different. That's why Liam didn't hesitate to use this trump card. Both of his spirit sword skills were currently locked, but it wouldn't be long before he unlocked them and perfected his understanding. Liam sighed deeply and then looked at the last notifications. I used my trump card, so this better be worth it. Ding. Egg hatching. Ding. New pet obtained. Ding. Egg hatching. Ding. New pet obtained. Huh. Liam was confused by the 2 hatching notifications. Both eggs hatched. He looked around again, finally spotting a tiny wind ripper chirping overhead. Come here. He waved, and the bird immediately flew down to him. It was about the size of his palm, just like the red fox. How are you already flying? He chuckled. The bird shook its head but didn't speak back like the fox. That was to be expected even though he had a mental link with both of them. One was a normal beast and the other was a spirit beast, so, while the fox could talk to him, or at least say a few basic things, the bird could only understand commands. He glanced at the 2 tiny beasts circling him, looking at him with their big eyes, and shook his head. Looks like I need to level you guys up. Liam didn't want a repeat of this near-death experience, either. Leveling wasn't his top priority, but he needed to do it to progress. His gaze casually swept over the lava mamba corpses as he checked for loot. He found a few copper and silver coins scattered around. There was also a pair of flaming red bracers and a skill book. Liam picked up the skill book first. Lava Rain, consumes 20% of base mana, 5-second cast time, summons a rain of fire and lava, burning all enemies in the area for 50% spell damage. Not bad. Liam quickly learned the skill. Combined with his fire magic boost from the fire essence, this would do major damage to multiple targets. He got ready to leave but suddenly paused. Can you still absorb fire essence from the lava pool? The tiny fox spirit beast looked at Liam, then at the lava pool, and shook its head. No, Papa. Is there no more fire essence in the lava pool, or can you just not do it anymore? The fox looked blank, then shook its head again. Sorry, Papa. Don't know. The beast's face changed, and it looked down sadly. It was enough to melt anyone's heart. Even Liam felt bad. Don't worry. You'll be able to do it when you're older. He rubbed its head gently, and the fox perked up, smiling back at him with its adorable face. If I'd known this, I would have planned better and absorbed some more fire essence before you hatched. He flicked the fox's head, but the beast seemed to like even that and purred happily. Liam sighed and smiled wryly, looking at the beauty and wonder around him. It was hard not to enjoy this life, but this was just the calm before the storm. He simply didn't have time to entertain these two and give them the love and affection baby beasts needed. You guys will get lots of attention when I bring May over. Until then, just be good. He patted the fox and then the bird. Let's get out of here. Getting out of the lava pool was as tough as getting in. Liam hopped across the small rocks floating on the lava and reached the solid rock wall of the mountain. These were even hotter than the rocks outside, and he could barely touch them without losing health. Luckily, the climb was short, as the cave jutted out near the top, only a few hundred meters up. Liam took a deep breath and started climbing, or rather running, up the mountain. He frantically grabbed any handhold or crevice he could find, clinging to any nearby rock, and climbed as fast as he could. Slowing down even a little would cause him to rapidly lose health, so he didn't hold back and only breathed again when he reached the top. His pets, on the other hand, one casually flew up, while the other hopped and skipped and landed softly beside him. Liam walked out of the cave and took out a tool from his bag, a sickle-like weapon with a long rope tied to it. He hooked it inside the cave, making sure it was secure, and started climbing down the mountain, using the rope to slowly lower himself. Chapter 72, Dawn #39, Try anything shady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the little fox clinging to his neck, Liam carefully climbed down the rope, taking it slow. The descent was a lot easier and faster than the climb up. He was back on solid ground before any more Wind Ripper birds could ambush him. Alright, let's get moving, Liam said, setting off with his two new companions. As luck would have it, the 5-person party team that had been hunting lava salamanders when he first arrived was still in the area. They spotted him and greeted him right away. To their surprise, Liam gave a nod in return. Hey, you guys want to run a dungeon together? Who would pass up a chance to get carried by a pro? Without hesitation, the tank blurted out, hell yeah. He even kicked his own teammate, the mage, out of the party, leaving the mage totally bewildered. Dude! My damage output is better than that thief's. He protested, pointing at the thief, desperately wanting to tag along for the easy ride, but it was too late. Nobody was listening. He could only watch in silence as the others continued their discussion. There's a dungeon nearby called Moon Lake. We can run that. You guys can keep all the equipment drops and the gold. I'm after the skill books and materials. Liam laid out the terms. Does that sound good? The tank nodded vigorously. The deal might not usually be advantageous, but in this case, it was a steal. They had been grinding here for hours specifically to level up enough to tackle the Moon Lake dungeon. It was a level 20 dungeon, and they were all currently level 19 or 20. Dungeons were always harder, so they wanted to be at least level 21 or 22 before trying it. But with Liam's offer, they jumped at the chance to team up with an experienced player. Even if they failed, it wasn't a big deal. It was common to fail a few times before clearing a dungeon. Running it once with a skilled player would be a huge help. Seeing that everyone was on board and a ready-made group was available, Liam wrapped up the discussion. Cool. Make a party and invite me," he said, heading out of the crater towards the Moon Lake dungeon in the forest surrounding Alika City. The others hurried after him, even the rejected mage. Soon, Liam got a notification. Ding. "You have been invited to join a party. Ding. Do you accept?" Yes/no, Liam selected yes, and then immediately received another notification. Ding. "You have been marked as the leader of the party. Ding. Do you accept?" Yes/no, Liam smiled and declined. You don't want to be the leader?" the tank asked, surprised. Liam simply waved his hand. "Nah, it's not necessary." The tank was floored, touched by the gesture. What a nice guy. He'd not only shown them a quick way to grind lava salamanders but also invited them to run a dungeon and didn't even want to be the party leader. How generous and noble. This was how a real expert should act. The group left the crater and entered the forest. Liam led the way with his two little beasts. The others followed, their eyes glued to the animals rather than Liam himself. Now that they had time to talk, they had all noticed the new pets. Inside their private chat group, Kim Hyun, "Thief guys, did you see those pets? He didn't have them before, right?" Shin Su, tank, "Nope. Didn't see any pets before. He must have found them around here." Kim Hyun, "Thief, damn. I knew it. Aren't flying pets supposed to be super rare? How does he already have one? And the fox looks special too. They're tiny, like babies. I bet he hatched an egg or something." Shin Su, tank, "Yeah, probably." Kong Mina, healer Hyun, "I know what you're thinking. Don't even go there. Don't mess this up." Chung Hee, mage 1, haha. "I bet he's plotting something." Kim Hyun, "Thief, geez, guys. I was just saying." Sunho, "Back me up, bro." Gu Sunho, mage 2, "Screw you. Why did you kick me out, you bastard?" Shin Su, tank, "Guys, settle down. Let's not blow this. His pets don't look that rare. It's just a bird and a fox. We can come back later and look for more eggs. I'm sure they'll respawn. We can even ask him how he got them. So, I'm warning you, don't try anything stupid." Kim Hyun, "Thief, alright. Whatever. Let's see what he can really do first. We only saw him kill a salamander. He might not be all that great." Kong Mina, healer, "I bet he's still better than you." Kim Hyun, "Thief, what's with you, Mina? Why are you always on my case? I'm just saying, if he's not that strong, we could easily steal his pets." Wait, pets drop when you kill someone, right? Gu Sunho, mage 2, "Kick this guy and invite me back." Chapter 73, Heavenly Retribution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liam could almost feel eyes burning a hole in his back as he walked ahead. Things about to get interesting, that he chuckled silently. Leveling elsewhere without attracting attention would definitely be simpler, but dungeons were still the fastest and most efficient way to go. Besides, he needed more souls to finish his quest. He didn't mind if someone wanted to try something. Moon Lake was a dungeon near the northern part of the forest surrounding Alika City. It was supposed to be a flourishing city, basically an extension of Alika, but now it was just a deserted wasteland, haunted by ghosts, ghouls, and all sorts of undead creatures. This was one of the main reasons Liam wanted to run this dungeon multiple times. This game was like a tutorial for everyone to learn the basics of their chosen class. So far, he had a decent grasp of using a sword and even a bit of mana control. Still, it wasn't nearly enough. Maybe he could become a strong human and manage the chaotic world with just this much, but that wasn't going to cut it against the monsters that would inevitably show up. When he had fallen, these cunning and cruel creatures were just starting to appear, and he didn't even know the half of what was coming. He'd be a fool not to use this opportunity to get everything he could, so he'd be ready for whatever came his way, not to mention his mysteriously high affinity with the undead. His mana affinity was only S grade, but his undead affinity was SSS grade, which he knew was the highest possible. Liam wanted to understand more about the undead and the magic tied to their power. in his previous life, a player had unlocked a hidden undead class and brought an army of undead soldiers when the apocalypse started. Liam wasn't interested in that hidden class, but he wanted to understand the mechanics behind it to get the same benefits. It was actually harder than just switching to that class, but he was willing to take the risk, partly because he wanted power beyond what a hidden class could offer, but mostly because of the affinity testing results when he entered the game. He firmly believed that skipping a specific class and using his knowledge to leverage all his affinities was the best path. If he didn't make progress in the next couple of months, he could always fall back and pick one of the many powerful hidden classes. Scattered around the world, many of those were unlocked later in the game anyway, so he had time to take the risk first. Lost in his thoughts, Liam hadn't been paying attention to his new friends chatting about the dungeon until he heard a familiar name. Heavenly Retribution Guild still holds the record for the fastest clear, right? Kim Hyun, the thief, rubbed his hands excitedly. Think we can beat it? Can you ever say anything that isn't stupid? Kong Mina whacked him with her staff. I can't take this stupidity anymore, Shin Su. I'm quitting this trash team and joining Heavenly Retribution. That Alex girl is so cool. As if they'd take a scrub healer like you. Kim Hyun shot back. Yeah. Always blame the healer. If you literally stand in front of a salamander while it's breathing fire, even Jesus can't save you, moron. Before Kim Hyun could respond, Liam stopped walking. Guilds are already up. The world announcements for guilds only started when there were 50 or more, directly opening to the Hall of Fame, so the information wasn't public knowledge yet. Liam didn't really care, but he was surprised to hear an unfamiliar guild name connected to someone he knew. Yeah. There are 31 guilds so far, Shin Su, the tank, replied quickly. Liam knew that number would skyrocket soon. And what were you saying about Heavenly Retribution? Oh, that. They're one of the top guilds right now. 3 of their core members are even on the leaderboard. They've started setting dungeon records too, Shin Su explained. Not just started. They hold the records for the level 10, 15, and 20 dungeons, Kong Mina corrected him. Right, haha. Didn't forget. Dude, you can see all the details if you follow Alex, Mia, or Ray on Instagram or Twitter. They're really pushing their social media. Their guild already has so many members too. They filled their first 50 spots, and now everyone else is on a waitlist. The tank kept talking, but Liam wasn't listening anymore. Things were already changing from his last timeline and he knew he was the reason for this particular change. After a moment, the tank stopped. Liam nodded. All right. Thanks for the info. He chuckled and muttered to himself, Heavenly Retribution, huh? Interesting. Chapter 74, Freeloader. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The group arrived at the Moon Lake dungeon entrance, and the place was a madhouse. Players were hawking their services left and right. Moon Lake Run. Need level 20+. Healer wanted. Level 18 minimum, everyone else 20. Tank needed. Level 15+, Dragon Roar skill a must. Players from level 15 to 22 swarmed the area, forming parties to tackle the dungeon. The level 15s were clearly looking for a carry, while the level 22s were deep in discussion, brainstorming strategies to break records. Even Liam's Korean companions were caught up in the record-breaking hype, but Liam had no interest. At least not until the level 50 dungeons opened up. Those higher-level dungeons offered significant rewards for record breakers, including rare raw materials. These could be looted every time a new record was set. In the past, top guilds had used this method to farm materials. They'd craft powerful weapons, then use those weapons to break the record again, but anything below level 50 was pretty much a waste of time. At best, it was a publicity stunt for guilds trying to make a name for themselves. Liam wasn't interested in that game. Building and managing a guild would take too much time better spent elsewhere. Besides, commanding a guild required serious power, something he hadn't acquired yet. Dude, wouldn't another mage be better for this run? Gu Sunho asked, scratching his head. Liam shook his head. I'm a mage too. We need a thief. Wait, you're a mage. I thought you used a sword. Gu Sunho was bewildered, and the thief just grinned back at him. Seeing another argument brewing, the tank cut in, silencing the rejected mage with a glare. Kim Hyun, Gu Sunho, knock it off. The group set. Let's go. Everyone ready? That was the end of the discussion. The disappointed mage sighed and watched the others disappear into the crowd. Multiple groups could enter the dungeon simultaneously without interfering with each other. After a couple of groups went ahead, Liam's party stepped into the dungeon portal, a swirling vortex of black energy. Instantly, they were teleported inside, finding themselves on the deserted streets of a dilapidated, abandoned village. Night had fallen, and a chilling wind swept through, enhancing the eerie atmosphere. At first, everyone waited for Liam to give instructions, but he just stood silently. As if waiting for the run to begin, hesitantly, Shin Su, the tank, spoke up. He wasn't sure if everyone, especially Liam, knew the dungeon's mechanics. Just because he was a skilled player didn't mean he knew this particular dungeon inside and out. Okay, so in this dungeon, there are several mirages of Moon Lake. We need to find the real one. The complete dungeon guide wasn't available online yet, but forums had some threads discussing the various mobs. Shin Su elaborated on what was available online, adding his own theories, but Liam didn't seem to be paying attention. This defeated the whole purpose of his attempt, since everyone except Liam had already researched the place together. With a helpless smile, the tank waved his hand, signaling that he was starting and charged forward. As soon as they took a step, a gust of wind blew, and 3 wailing white specters materialized out of thin air. Provocate, Shin Su was a burly guy playing a warrior tank, with a shield in one hand and a hammer in the other. As soon as he drew the specter's attention, the mage started casting fireballs, and the thief darted forward with his dagger. The healer began chanting spells to keep the tank alive. Damage numbers popped up above the specters one after another. Their shrill wailing was deafening, and everyone wanted to end the fight quickly. They'd almost forgotten about their expert companion. But when the fight seemed slower than it should have, they realized something was off. One member was missing. Huh. He turned to look for Liam and saw him still at the entrance, fiddling with the system interface without taking a single step. Block. He yelled out his next skill in anger and continued tanking the remaining 2 specters, grinding his teeth. He didn't expect the guy to carry them, but the least he could do was join the fight. Did he expect to be carried through the dungeon? Did they look like fools? The more he thought about it, the angrier he got, and just when he was about to lose it and yell, a notification popped up. Chapter 75, I am ready now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding. Your overflowing rage has increased your physical defense by 5%. Shin Su blinked, totally bewildered. Seriously? That's a thing for warriors. That he stared at the stat boost, stunned, then snapped back to reality. He was forgetting the real reason he was pissed off in the first place. Damn it, that he spun around, hammer raised, and barked at Liam, hey. You gonna join this fight or what? That with the specters screeching like banshees in the background, his voice sounded particularly pissed and vengeful. The rest of the team was just as annoyed, nodding in agreement. But figures. Liam still wasn't paying attention. He just casually held up his hand, signaling them to wait. Shin Su's eye twitched. He turned back to the fight, chucking his shield at the specters. The battle was already on, so he had to finish this before starting another one with this so-called expert. The others shot death glares at Liam before unloading their anger on the specters. Soon, the specters stopped wailing and dissolved into specks of light and a few copper coins. Ding. 20 experience points have been rewarded. Ding. 20 experience points have been rewarded. Shin Su bent over, picked up the coins, and marched toward Liam with a grim expression. Liam, we pulled a mob and you just stood there. Seriously? What if more specters had shown up? We would have been wiped before we even got started. Were you serious about this or not? We're only here because you asked us to come. Yeah, if you weren't interested, why invite us in the first place? That the accusations started piling up. but this was all they could do. This wasn't a beginner's dungeon anymore. They couldn't just bail whenever they wanted. Now they either had to finish the run or die trying. That's what made everyone so angry. Since Liam was supposed to be so skilled and powerful, they didn't expect him to troll them like this. What a waste. Shin Su muttered. They were probably going to lose some experience, and if they were really unlucky, some gear too. He glared at Liam, who was still standing there like a statue, and spat out, whatever, let's just keep going. If we die, we die. The others nodded and followed him. They trudged through the deserted village streets, past the dilapidated huts and half-destroyed houses, and another mob popped up. The specters wailed, this time 5 of them. Shin Su rushed forward, trying to hold them back, but 5 specters were too much. He started taking serious damage, and the healer's mana was draining fast. The thief and mage weren't doing enough damage to take them down quickly, and the specters were all over the place. Screw it. Looks like this is going to be a fast wipe. Shin Su sighed, giving up. He could see where this was going. What was the point of trying? This was a tough dungeon, which is why they had been leveling up before attempting it, so how could they possibly handle it with only 4 people? What a total waste of time. His health was about to bottom out when, out of nowhere, a blazing fireball slammed into the spectre about to scratch him. 200. A huge damage number appeared above the spectre's head. Chung-hee, what skill is that? How is your fireball doing that much damage all of a sudden? Shin Su wondered aloud, but instead of Chung-hee, another voice answered, I'm ready now. Liam was calm and collected as he defused the bomb that was about to explode. He tossed a health potion to the tank, and Shin Su caught it, looking surprised. Health potions were expensive. Was it really okay to just use one like that? Crap. What am I thinking? He chugged the potion, barely a breath away from dying. You know, we wouldn't even be in this mess if you hadn't been standing around like a bump on a log. Stop talking and focus on the fight. Liam's words made the 4 of them want to stab him instead of the specters, but they didn't have time to be angry right now. The wailing specters continued to wave their huge, sharp claws, or rather, overgrown nails, in a frenzy, and the tank and the thief were having a tough time dodging and fighting back. The mage wasn't doing enough damage to turn the tide, but everything changed when Liam joined the fray. He didn't draw his sword this time. He wanted to focus on mana, fine-tune his control, and learn more about casting spells. Fireball, fireball, fireball. Liam cast the same spell over and over, each time imagining a ball of energy gathering and shooting forward. He tried to increase and decrease its power at will, not worrying about the actual damage numbers, and standing right beside him were his 2 pets, who still hadn't done a thing. The 3 of them looked relaxed and carefree compared to the rest of the team, who were barely breathing and struggling to stay in the fight. Chapter 76, Wherein #39, TU in a hurry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding. 20 experience points have been rewarded. Ding. 20 experience points have been rewarded. Ding. 20 experience points have been rewarded. Once Liam started slinging fireballs, the fight was short and sweet. The 5 specters dissolved into astral light, one after another. Shin Su and the team were so stunned, they wondered if the specters had been a hallucination to begin with, but the XP notifications kept rolling in, so they had to accept reality. This was the difference between their skills and someone who was playing on a whole different level. Any past complaints they had about him vanished instantly, like they never existed. Now, they just hoped Liam wasn't holding a grudge. Sir. Shin Su scratched his head awkwardly, but before he could say anything, Liam just smiled and fired off another fireball, pulling even more specters out of the dilapidated huts. He was already attacking the next wave. Usually, the tank would approach the mob first to draw their attention, but Liam just strolled up and started blasting fireballs non-stop. Shin Su snapped out of it and scrambled to fix the situation, trying to redirect the enemy's focus. The others panicked and started attacking too. Whoa. Dude. Wait up, Liam chuckled. What's the rush? I thought you guys said you were in a hurry. He ignored their pleading looks and kept torching specters. Normally, this would have earned instant hate. Tanks are supposed to initiate fights for stability, except in special circumstances, but in this case, no one dared to complain. After all, with the insane damage he was dealing, the fight suddenly became a cakewalk. Even though the tank didn't start the fight, there was no chaos or massive damage spread. This was even more impressive considering the dungeon they were in. Moon Lake's main challenge was the Spectre's wails. Listening to those wails for too long could mess you up, clouding your mind and making it impossible to think straight. With the game's realistic features, the effect could even paralyze players for an hour. That's how powerful the wails were. Speed was key in this dungeon, and Liam was all about that. He set the pace, pulling in more and more specters right as the last one died. Bro. Shin Su started, then stopped himself. He didn't even know if Liam was doing this on purpose or if the dungeon demanded it. What could he say? Slow down. Shield impact, block. He shook his head and tried to manage the fight, but he was the only one who looked busy. The healer had nothing to do, the other two players were in the same boat. The thief's attacks were like tickling the specters, and the other mages were like mosquito bites. Liam was single-handedly doing more damage than all of their DPS combined. The specters were getting annihilated. In the blink of an eye, they went from worrying about a wipe to clearing the first haunted street of Moon Lake Village. Look! There's the lake! Mina shouted, pointing east. Everyone turned to look. There it was, a huge lake in the distance. In the center, a mysterious altar floated in the air, topped with a bright, shining necklace. The necklace triggered a quest that gave a decent chunk of XP. OMG! We're totally gonna break the record. The thief and the healer exclaimed. The group rushed toward the lake, Liam trailing casually behind in silence. He was quietly checking his special quest progress. He'd wiped out a ton of souls in the dungeon, but it looked like these specter souls didn't count. Well, worth a shot. He shrugged and checked the XP bars of the two tiny creatures tailing him. He told them not to get involved in any fights because they were too weak. This was based on Liam's own theory. Dying too much in this tutorial game affected human souls, so he figured the same might apply to companion beasts. He forbade them from fighting until they hit level 5 and their unique skills started to unlock. Right now, all they could do was scratch and claw. Liam looked at their stats. The bird was close to leveling up, but the fox still had a ways to go. So, spirit beasts need more XP to level up than common beasts. Makes sense. Liam patted the two, who looked up at him with big, eager eyes, and then followed the group. Shin Su and the others had reached the lake, but as soon as they got close, the lake vanished. Standing before them was a huge mob of wailing specters. Chapter 77, We Shouldn't Waste. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing everyone just standing there, Liam smiled and calmly asked, "What's the holdup?" Liam. The lake vanished. The tank looked stunned. Huh. Didn't you guys read up on the dungeon? It's full of illusions. Yeah, but... Shin Su stammered. They knew this going in, but nobody expected it to be so realistic. Plus, the mob of wailing specters was terrifying. The only good thing was you could avoid them if you were careful. Hyun, can you stealth the group? Shin Su mumbled nervously. It wasn't strictly necessary, but he really wanted to avoid fighting. The thief nodded and quickly used his stealth blanket skill. He'd gotten lucky and picked up this rare ability that could extend stealth to a bunch of players. As his skill level went up, the number would increase, but it was all for nothing when one of them raised his hand and tossed another fireball, aggroing the whole mob. No, that they all shouted at once, but it was too late. Dude, why? Shin Su rushed forward, trying to pull 5 of the specters onto himself. Why not? We shouldn't waste any mobs. Liam replied matter-of-factly, calm and confident as usual, but things were already out of control. 8 or so specters were charging at them. Dude, you pulled way too many. Wait for me to. Before the tank could finish, fire started raining down. Huh? What is this? Do the specters have magic attacks? Everyone was confused, then they saw the huge damage numbers appearing on them as fiery rain pelted the specters, and they understood, the guy they'd teamed up with had an AoE skill. Friendly fire's a thing, guys. Watch where you're standing. Liam reminded them. He was actually pretty happy with this random group. They might not be amazing, but they weren't doing anything stupid and slowing him down. They were following his lead and coordinating decently. Ignoring their shocked faces, Liam focused on the effects on his body. He wasn't just throwing fireballs blindly, he was paying attention to the control and after effects. He could feel the mana draining after using lava rain. Almost. I feel like I'm on the verge of understanding something. He clenched his fist, inhaled deeply, and pulled in mana from the air. Then he started slinging fireballs again. The Fire Fox Spirit Beast was loving this, what with fire raining everywhere and Liam shooting out fireballs left and right. Q. That it jumped up and down, clearly enjoying the show, while the others were trying not to get hit by their own teammates' skill. The little fox was skipping around, trying to catch the fire drops in its mouth like they were water. It just added insult to injury. They'd be more upset about the unnecessary mob if they weren't getting constant experience point notifications. Their bars were filling up so fast, they started attacking even harder. They'd also gotten a lot of money and a couple of pieces of gear. We've cleared this much. Should we check this street and see if the lake is there? Shin Su suggested, and everyone, including Liam, agreed. The group headed down the street, and sure enough, the lake appeared a few blocks away. Let's go. The tank shouted. Everyone ran towards the lake as fast as they could. But as they got closer, the lake and the moonlight vanished, replaced by another mob of wailing specters. Hearing their cries over and over was giving them a headache. They could turn around and run, but they knew that wasn't going to happen. Ah! Shin Su looked up to see fire raining down again. Bang! 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 The specters turned to face them and charged, a big chunk of their health already gone from the fire drops. Liam stuck with his couple of skills for this mob, smoothly finishing the fight, and at the end, the tiny Wind Ripper finally got its first upgrade. Its body and wings grew slightly bigger. It was smaller than a palm before, and now it was exactly the size of a palm, maybe one belonging to a big, burly guy. It wasn't much, but the others looked at it with envy, wondering when theirs would grow up too. Soon. Soon. Liam shook his head and kept an eye on the specters. One was about to attack the healer, so he focused on it and took it down. Chapter 78, Move Aside. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Each Moon Lake dungeon run usually took about 3 to 5 hours, accounting for unexpected stuff, but Liam's group was already 8 hours in. Everyone except him was sprawled out on the ground, catching their breath. They were drenched in sweat and clutching their stomachs like they'd just run a marathon, and the worst part, they still had 3 mini-bosses and the final boss to deal with. Let's go. Get up, Liam said. He was focused on his mana automatically replenishing. Everyone had a mana regeneration rate, but it wasn't enough. The trick was to boost it. Leveling up without paying attention to that was a waste. Boss, just 2 more minutes, please. Shin Su and Hyun whined. They were used to a certain level of comfort as gamers, and this ultra-realistic game was killing them. Why did it have to replicate the pain and tiredness? Wasn't the stamina stat dropping enough? Did they really need to feel everything? They were exhausted from head to toe. They'd run into a bunch of mirages so far, and every single one had been a letdown. Of course, it wouldn't have been so bad if they just snuck past the mobs, but Liam had other plans. Heh. Come on. Get up. I don't think this one's a mirage. You'll feel refreshed after a dip in Moon Lake. Don't you guys want that? Liam chuckled and headed toward the lake. The moon shone brightly, and the water sparkled like diamonds. rustling sounds echoed behind him. The others reluctantly dragged themselves up. Pust. He's not lying, right? The thief whispered to Shin Su with a bitter smile. Shin Su sighed. Even if Liam was lying, what could they do? All they could do was watch their experience bars fill up at lightning speed and try to feel better about it. After level 20, leveling up was tough, requiring hours of grinding. But their experience was increasing quickly. Liam's fireballs, more like cannonballs, coupled with all the mobs and no competition from other players, was speeding things up. But was it worth the hard, painful grind? Wasn't this just a game? Why were they working so hard? They grumbled inwardly while their feet kept moving, not wanting to miss out on the opportunity, and like Liam said, this time when they got to the lake, it didn't disappear. Ah! Kim Hyun shouted as he dove into the lake. Watch out for mobs, idiot. Shin Su panicked, but nothing happened. The others rushed in and submerged themselves. The cool water washed away the tiredness. Liam drank a few mouthfuls. A warm, nourishing feeling spread through his body, erasing all the physical and mental fatigue from listening to the specter's wails. Dude! This is amazing. How come we didn't find this on the forums? Ah, so good. This is the best thing I've ever tasted. Che. Shut up and move over. You're stinking up my space. The group started playing like kids, not looking like they were going to stop. Liam cleared his throat. They reluctantly got out of the lake. The altar's on the other side. Let's go. As soon as they arrived, loud clanging noises echoed, and 3 pitch-black wraiths descended, their chains dragging. The wraiths looked terrifying, but after defeating waves of specters, no one was scared. The tank rushed forward. I'll get all 3. Only attack the one on the right. We'll take them down one at a time. Shin Su yelled, strutting forward. The wraiths screamed, and swirling balls of white and black energy appeared. They tossed them at the tank, instantly dropping his health to 1/3. How am I supposed to heal this? The healer panicked. The wraith started chanting in a weird language, and the next set of balls appeared. No 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 no. Arg. Shin Su activated his skills, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. If they couldn't withstand 2 attacks, what would happen later? He clenched his weapon, when a sharp voice calmly reminded him, a tank doesn't always have to take the hit. You can dodge. Move aside. I'll tank this fight. Chapter 79, Dungeon Boss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shin Su stared at Liam, dumbfounded. He didn't have time to think. All he could think was, this is insane. Okay, a mage can use a sword, but how was Liam going to tank? Did he even have enough defense to survive 1 attack from 3 wraiths? It was pure madness. If it were anyone else, Shin Su would have told them to shut it. But this was Liam, so he instinctively stepped aside and listened. Before the wraiths could reach him, Shin Su dodged, immediately losing their attention. The 3 pitch-black wraiths turned to Liam, standing behind them with his 2 little critters. Liam tossed 3 fireballs, one after the other, grabbing their attention. Taunt skills are the most common way to tank, but this worked too. His damage was almost double what everyone else was doing, so it was easy to make the wraiths target him, but that was just the start. A good tank needs more than just aggro. Liam blurred, appearing right in front of the 3 wraiths. The other mage stepped back, and the thief and X-tank started attacking from behind while Liam held the front line. He moved with ease, barely getting touched by the wraith's attacks. The healer sighed in relief, quickly healing the X-tank. The group focused on the wraith on the right, slowly chipping away at its health. Liam also dealt damage when he could, but he was mostly focused on something else. He kept his eyes locked on the 3 wraiths. He was studying everything about them, their movements, their attack patterns, every detail he could see. These were the only undead in the low-level areas near the cities. If he wanted to find more, he'd have to head to higher-level zones, so, he was trying his best to understand these 3 wraiths. These wraiths and specters were a level higher than the mindless undead he summoned, and he hoped he could gain some insight from them. After slaughtering so many specters, He still wasn't any closer to understanding his undead affinity. Liam moved gracefully, dancing around the three wraiths and keeping them focused on him. He easily dodged their attacks, but he also let some hit him, taking the full force head-on. Every time he did, the healer panicked. The hardest part of this fight was avoiding the wraith's attacks, which could almost one-shot you. Liam had enough health to take at least 3 hits, but seeing his health drop so much was still nerve-wracking, and he wasn't making it easy on her. He was completely lost in his own world, toying with the 3 wraiths. Beating the dungeon seemed to be the last thing on his mind. The fight continued like this, with Liam skillfully tanking. The 3 wraiths seemed more like regular mobs than a mini-boss, and the fight was over quickly. Ding. 1,000 experience points have been rewarded. Ding. 1,000 experience points have been rewarded. Ding. 1,000 experience points have been rewarded. Kim Hyun and the Wind Ripper leveled up. Fuck yes. I'm finally level 20. Kim Hyun jumped around, and the bird copied him. Chirp. 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 Ugh. Don't pick up any habits from this guy, Liam scolded the bird, who immediately calmed down. Kim Hyun just smiled bitterly, pretending he hadn't just been called a bad influence on a freaking bird. I suggest you all take another drink from the lake, Liam said, taking another sip himself. Soon after, the final boss of Moon Lake arrived. The entire lake started swirling like a whirlpool, with a tornado forming above it. Dark wisps descended into the chaos, and a monstrous wraith slowly materialized. Unlike the other specters and wraiths, this one had a red glow. Demonic Wraith General, level 20. Health, 5,000,000. The sheer amount of health this giant black thing had scared everyone. 5 million health points. That was 100 times more than the elite boss Barabara, whom Liam had slaughtered. For level 20 players, this was the strongest dungeon boss. Ah. Why is it so high? Wasn't it supposed to be just 1 million? Shin Su cried in disbelief. He also received another notification. Ding. The evil eye lands on you. You have been targeted by the Wraith General. Ding. All your stats are reduced by 5%, everyone else received similar notifications. I can't breathe, Mina said, stepping back and shivering. As a holy healer, she was most affected by the boss's presence. Instead of a 5% stat reduction, she lost 10%. Liam, however, felt energized by the presence of such a powerful undead being. He also received a different notification. Ding. The evil eye lands on you. You have been targeted by the Wraith General. Ding. All your stats are reduced by 5%. Ding. You possess an SSS grade undead affinity. Ding. All your stats are increased by 20%. Chapter 80, Hard Mode. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Well, this is a surprise. Liam grinned. Why the happy face, dude? Shin Su, eyeing the debuffs, felt like crying. The final boss not only had more health, but their debuffs were worse too. This was nothing like what people described on the forums. Focus. Stop spacing out. Liam raised his hand just as the wraith moved its arms. A giant fireball formed in front of him, while black wisps leaked from the wraith, spreading across the lake and surrounding area. The ground began to tremble and crack, as if something was clawing its way up. Crack. 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 Bony hands burst from the earth. Dozens of skeletons clawed their way out and charged towards the group. Lava rain. Liam immediately unleashed his AoE skill. Circle up and blast anything that gets close. Don't sweat the ones in the back. Everyone nodded, quickly adjusting their positions. With their backs to the lake, they formed a semicircle. The healer and other mage safely tucked in the center. The tank, thief, and Liam took the outer ring, hammering the incoming skeletons and mowing down the undead army one by one. Dude, only a few villagers buried by the lake were supposed to reanimate. Why is this run so much harder? Shin Su asked Liam for what felt like the millionth time, and as the words left his mouth, it clicked. This run was harder. What did that mean? They were running the dungeon on a different difficulty than everyone else. While others were still trying to unlock hidden bosses or different modes in Evolution Online, they'd stumbled onto one, at least. That's what the tank figured. Liam, on the other hand, knew what was up from the start. Every dungeon, except the beginner's area, had varying difficulty levels, but you couldn't just pick one, it was automatically determined by the skill of the players in the dungeon. This was only the second stage, too. If they'd cleared it faster, the difficulty would have ratcheted up even more. The whole game was designed to train players to unlock their hidden potential and get them ready for what was coming. The group kept fighting, painfully clearing out the endless wave of resurrected villagers. These undead gave experience points, so they were basically farming. It was a test and a reward all in one. Tough as hell, but if you could clear it, the experience payout was huge. After smashing a few undead, Liam took a second to cast his basic necromancy spell, Awaken. Immediately, the broken bones at their feet fused together, reassembling into undead warriors. 5 skeletons rose next to Liam and charged the incoming horde. They didn't last long, but they took down 3 to 5 enemies each. Plus, it was easier for Liam to toss fireballs and manage his mana when he wasn't focused on close combat. The tank and thief beside him were too busy fighting to notice, but the healer and mage definitely saw it. Chung-hee, who hadn't said a word until now, frowned and asked Liam, "Liam, are you really a mage? How can you control the undead?" His question startled everyone, and they all stared at Liam, their faces a mix of shock and confusion. Swords, magic spells, pets, and now undead. Liam just smiled. It's a mage skill. Nothing special. He didn't elaborate, just kept mowing down the undead. Chung-hee clearly didn't buy it and looked like he was about to press the issue, but Shin-Su cut him off. "We can talk later. Let's clear this dungeon first." The mage nodded, continuing to hurl spells at the undead. He just couldn't wrap his head around how someone with the same job could be so much better. It was one thing if the difference was a few points of damage, but hundreds. It was embarrassing. Not to mention the variety of spells Liam had. He couldn't help but feel jealous. Chung-hee sighed. But there was no time to dwell on it. The undead were relentless, and everyone had to pull their weight to avoid being overwhelmed. At the same time, the experience points kept pouring in. After a while, the wraith screamed, chanting something in an ancient language, and a red aura washed over the remaining undead villagers. Suddenly, the undead were stronger and tougher, making them much harder to kill. "They're dropping more EXP too." Liam chuckled, reminding everyone of the silver lining. This went on for a few more minutes until finally, the last undead villager crumbled into dust. Only a pile of broken bones and dust remained. "Rhea! Rhea!" The boss roared, seemingly enraged by the slaughter of its summons. "Is it going to summon more undead?" Shin-Su wiped his brow, muttering nervously.